Hey everybody, this is Andrew Lee with Health Mutual Network and your admin over at the California Insurance Agents Group. And again, I have one of my favorite people on, and this is going to be, no stranger. He's going to be no stranger to the group. He's going to be on a bunch of times, especially now. I call him Mariah Carey today because how if you hear a Mariah Carey song, you know it's going to be Christmas. If you hear Christian Brindle on YouTube, you know it's going to be AEP pretty soon. So Christian Brindle, again, welcome back to the pod. And every time you're on,
Thank
you always spit some fire. You always spit some knowledge. So
one.
today's topic is actually going to be a pretty interesting one, right? So specifically in California, of course, everybody knows after Big Red went down, I'm not going to name any specific carriers, but ever since a homeowner's or a personal lines commercial is pretty decent right now. Homeowners insurance, all that stuff just sort of went down toilet essentially in the past year and a half or so with PNC agents. What I've been noticing a lot of is people pivoting, right? People pivoting to health because they have a life license and a health license already, just like how I still have my personal lines license, funny enough. So I've been getting a lot of people reaching out to me for this specific scenario of like, hey, okay, what's Medicare looking like? Because right now it's just crazy. And I've always, had my health license. I've never done anything with it. But, my other agency friend that, is my friend through all of this, and they're sort of on the same level as me. They're doing Medicare now, and I just wanted to know how that all worked out, or how health insurance works out with in conjunction with their current book of business and their current business that they're working in, their current line. So
Mhm.
I wanted to get Christian on just because definitely I'll have the California perspective, but definitely from just how someone from that field can easily transition into Medicare or insurance in general. Christian is definitely going to be a wealth of knowledge on that. So, Christian, what are some of your thoughts of about people from other lines coming into the Medicare world, or coming into the ACA world, coming into the health world in general, let's call it. Um, and what is sort of because I know our systems are pretty tried and true with helping these agents, but what are some of your, you know, what is some knowledge you can give us in regards to that?
Yeah, of course. And thanks again for having me on, Andrew. It's always a blast and it's always a pleasure. This is such an interesting topic to me, right? Because I would say, with the exception of a few people, and those few people might see this video and they'll be like, "Hey, that's not true." I would say the majority of people that I know that are in the PNC world, or maybe not even in the PNC world, but they're in other worlds, they find that there's systematic problems with the way that kind of line of insurance works, right? With PNC, there's lots of people jumping in and out. There's all kinds of problems specifically in California, which I'll let you address. But historically, it's kind of always been there's no open enrollment. People change whenever they want. People come in and out. It's more transactional. Um, Commissions aren't as rich as they might be in like Medicare or some other types of lines. And so the overall kind of consensus I've heard from a lot of PNC agents, even since I got into the business and started, was it's kind of a racket, right? And with things that have happened in the recent future, it's kind of only kind of compounded on top of all of those factors. And I think that anybody that's watching this that's doing well in PNC, maybe you're killing it in PNC, exceptions don't disprove the rule. And in general, I see that it's just kind of a tricky thing with life and like final expense. I see a lot of life and final expense guys transition into ACA, Medicare, the health kind of related um, lines of business. And typically the reason I hear from all of them is they can make a lot of money. They can write 150, 200, 250, $300,000 a year in final expense premium and make that. But the renewals are, very little to almost non-existent, right? So it's almost like a hamster wheel. They got to stay on the hamster wheel in order to keep, kind of building their business. And the only way they're going to make more money is if they write more premium than they did the year before, right? And if they're already capped out, if they're already at a place where like I'm doing 300,000 a year in premium, I'm working my butt off, I'm working 6-7 days a week, like I can't do any more production, right? Like I've already capped out what I can do by myself. It just makes it very harder to scale and harder to build and harder to compound. So I wanted to share a couple things on Medicare, California specifically, correct? Because this is the California insurance agent group. So I want to kind of zero focus in on that kind of demographic there. One thing that people don't realize is the long-term scalability of Medicare. I think they hear about it before, but they don't necessarily it doesn't really click in terms of what the potential really is. In 2024, the California Medicare Advantage commissions, and this is street level, anybody can get it, is $762 for a new to Medicare Advantage sale. We call that a true up. And $381 on the renewal of that. So the crazy thing to me is when I first got into the business, you had to have about 500 Medicare Advantage members on the books to make a 6-figure income in renewals, right? If you compare that to now, especially in California, it's strikingly almost nothing, right? So like if we're doing those numbers, you only need about 260 members on your books to be making a 6-figure income in renewals in the Medicare Advantage space. Like that's wild to me, right? And it's just it's a product line that's grown. Commissions have increased every single year for the previous 6 or 7 years in a row. The clientele is sticky, the retention is good, and while there has been more compliance available, what that typically means when more compliance comes out is competition retracts, and there's less competition around because of that. And some people that are pretenders get out of the space. So I think there's so much we could talk about here. There's so much potential, but that's kind of like a 10,000 foot view on, really kind of what the potential is when it comes to Medicare. I have tons of other thoughts, but I want to kind of hear from you, Andrew, on like California specifically and kind of what you're seeing. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
So another cool thing about, what I've been seeing is, well, here's sort of my philosophy on Medicare, right? And this, you as an FMO, me sort of as an upline, it's a little bit weird to hear from us, but I think the people that really kill it in this industry were the people that have some kind of other lines that they've sold before. Christian,
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with me on this. But if you've had a consistent line from like before, like a book of business from being a life insurance agent, right? You're one of the killers at FFL. You're one of the whatever. You're a broker for XYZ life insurance company, and you're doing annuities, and that's all you were pretty much doing. Or if you were in the PNC world, and you were obviously you're other whatever, a big blue, big red, one of those agents, or big all the other carriers in the middle. You have a book of business, right? You have a book of business where you can first start off at. So a lot of agents I've noticed that are brand spanking new are sort of in a frenzy. Let's just be real. Let's just call a spade, unless they were captive before or LOA before, and then came in and they're sort of like, hey, I need to do everything all at once, and this is gonna happen for me overnight, and that's the energy that they all come in with. But realistically, this is a labor of love, right? This is a marathon, and as you keep selling, as you keep going, as you keep enrolling, as you keep networking, as your referral pool gets bigger and bigger, as your name gets bigger, as your brand gets bigger, then you're in a good place. But I always say, you're going to be in a better place if, in my opinion, if there's no really too much of a gun to your head saying that I have to sell this, and now because here's the reason why. If you're brand new and you're making $0 a year, right, doing Medicare, and there's a guy, an Indeed application you've been staring at that's $60,000 a year, right? And you're like, I'm at zero right now, and this is just I'm doing all the right things, or they think they're doing all the right things, and it's just not working out for me, so I have to go get this job now, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
the worst mistake. That's completely, the opposite of betting on yourself. That's completely lack of faith, in my opinion. That's complete. So, but here's the thing. It does happen a lot. That's why, 1 out of 10 people are, actually surviving in this industry. But if
Mm-hmm.
you have a book of business that you're already like okay on, and you're not gonna starve, and your wife or your husband's not gonna, hopefully your husband doesn't yell, but if your wife yells at you and says, "Hey, you need to, let's get this going. Like, we need to get, something done," and and then you have all these strifes, and you're getting pulled 17 different ways of saying you need to get income, then you're definitely going to need a heck of a lot more education. You're going to have to spend a lot more time. You're going to have to spend a little bit of money. You're going to have to, very much, go out of your way to lead generate. Whereas anybody that's out in the life insurance, the PNC world, anybody like that, you just have to go into your CRM that you're using, toggle and filter out anybody that's 19, or it's 2023 right now, 1958 and older, and then, get some kind of, permission to contact, and then just start going after it. And, all of a sudden you get that one first deal after signing up your whoever it is. Generally people will go and like, it's their grandparents, or it's their, whatever it is, their
Right.
parents, or,
Yeah.
whatever the case is. But, once you have that one deal in, then you have sort of the know-how, because you take the AHIP, right? You take the AHIP and it's just a bunch of words. It's not really, doesn't do anything
Right.
for you, right? You want to
Yep.
make it actionable. Yes, the AHIP is just the AHIP. Once you have that first deal, you get that adrenaline, you get that first like, I can do this kind of energy, and then that's when the real questions start coming out, right? Hey, so I have this situation where, this client is doing that, and the situation though is they can't get that because of and X, Y, and Z. Like, what can we do in that situation? Then it starts, the information starts compounding, and then all of a sudden you have a supplemental book of business to your original one. So that's why I feel like people who are selling other products are advantageous when it comes to this, because one, you already have the know-how to build a book of business, no matter what the line is. I mean, shoot, you have the heart, you had the work ethic, you had the knowledge, you had the ability to seek knowledge and make something of yourself. So you're already proven in that department. Why not do that with Medicare and have a supplemental income where it's going to be residual every year on top of what you're currently already making? So that is sort of the opportunity of what's happening, especially in California, because if everybody's in a frenzy, hey, you got to pivot, right? It is just sort of what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just, that's sort of my, stance on, how to get into Medicare, especially if you have a different book of business too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, and that is the hardest thing for an agent to do in any line, right? No matter what it is getting in front of people. It's why the fail rate's so high, because most people can't get in front of people, right? They can't get in front of enough people to produce enough business to pay their bills and to grow and that kind of thing. But like Andrew says, that is not really nearly as much of a challenge for you if you already have an established book of business that you can market to, that you can work with. And guess what? If you have a book of business and they're already your client for something else, guess what else you don't need? Permission to contact, right? Like you have, they're in your book of business. You can reach out to your existing clients already about anything you like, because it's you calling your client. And so, like, you don't have to scrap as much for people to give you the permission to reach out to them, to get a lead from them, that kind of thing. You can reach out to your own clients and be like, hey, Mr. Jones, hey, Mrs. Jones, this is, little Billy down the street. And, I'm your PNC guy. I do your home, I do your cars. I just wanted to let you know that I also do Medicare. I wasn't sure if you were aware that we offer that as well. I know you're over 65. If you ever wanted to sit down and kind of go over your options, make sure you're on the best plan, it probably would simplify your life to have everything under one roof, right? Um, that is really powerful, and it's free. You've already done the work to build that book of business, and you can essentially market to your book of business. So Andrew's 100% right. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I would even say, it's not as compared to what let's say somebody in the PNC world or somebody in the life insurance world, for example, when you already have that client, it's because you sold that client. Life insurance and PNC sales, especially, I mean, not auto because that's required, you know, if it's a sale, right? For life insurance, you got to really tug at the heartstrings of some people and then really get in. It's a sale. You have to follow up. And if you don't get this now, then I don't know when you can get this kind of, you have to do all that kind of stuff. Whereas Medicare is when you turn 65, I mean, either way, you got it, either way.
Yep.
And, it's just something that you have to get to if I mean, if you want some kind of semblance of decent coverage, you have to get this kind of plan. So what I've noticed a lot with other lines is there's a lot more selling. You know, the old adage, I don't know if it's an old adage, whatever. The adage is, you know, if you're a life insurance agent, you don't have a lead problem, you have a sales problem.
Yep.
And if you're a Medicare agent, you don't have
Yeah.
a sales problem, you have a leads problem.
Yeah.
So
It's so true. Like I heard somebody explain it so well a couple of years back, and I just have it's always stuck in my mind. Life insurance is the easiest product to learn and the hardest to sell,
no, yeah.
and Medicare is the hardest product to learn but the easiest product to sell.
That's right.
You
I
know, and
completely agree.
and it's so true. It's so true. Like, and if you've sold them a life insurance policy, you've done the hardest part.
Mhm.
Like you hit the home run already
Yeah,
with that person. And so, it's not going to be as difficult to get, a couple singles or a couple doubles, at that point, which
absolutely.
which is the easier sales, the easier sales.
That's right. Your
Medicare
order taken.
Medicare is a product that everybody needs. They absolutely need it. It's their health care. They get penalized if they're not set up correctly for it. They can't see their doctors that they want to see if they're not set up correctly for it. They can't get their prescriptions covered as well as possible if they're not set up correctly for it. Like, not that life insurance isn't important. I think, as an insurance guy, I certainly, look at the importance of life insurance, but I don't think there's anything as important as somebody's health care. And so they need it. Like, it's not something that you necessarily have to push all that hard with. It's something that they absolutely need. They know they need it, and it's confusing. They need help, and they welcome it oftentimes.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, a car is a car. Your body's your body. Let's just be real, right? Um, yeah. So with other lines transitioning into Medicare, it's generally not even that hard either, right? One
Yeah,
of my agents that are doing pretty like almost like one a day, yeah, just transitioned in and then just literally contacted their book of business, and then all of a sudden it's just almost one a day is crazy for somebody that's new, um,
absolutely,
in the off
absolutely.
season, which is insane. So there's opportunities. Obviously, it's just gonna be the same skill set of what you've been doing, in the other lines that you have been. It's just again, it's just a lot of information to learn, but you got to get with somebody that's gonna sort of teach you and give you the spark notes on that, even though there are testing like AHIPs and certifications and all that. And once you have all that down, funny enough, that person that I'm talking about was like, "Wait, that's it? The application process? Like that's it?" I'm like, "That's it." Do the HRA too. You get extra money for that. And they're like, wait, I get extra
Yep.
money for doing a just like a questionnaire at the end. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, you do. And they're like, what kind of business is this? So it's just like, there's sort of the eyes are opening of like, I'm like, wait, are we serious? Wait, I get 150 for DSNP? What? It's just like so crazy. Like, like there's just like so many things going on, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So, it's really funny. So if you guys are ever in that situation where, you know, if you think Medicare is a whole different language, I mean, it could be for some people, but if you just have a killer's mentality, and if you're just, what you got, and you're, what we call an impressive person, all around, there's absolutely no reason why you can't pick this up either, right? And
Yep.
I've done the same thing. I've picked this up. My initial product when I first started was under 65 ACA sales and ancillary products along with that. And then, even though the lingo is pretty much similar with the two products, it wasn't so much that. It was just like, it was just easy to learn in terms of like the simple things, right? Hey, I got somebody, they just turned 65. What options can I give them? Okay, that option sounds good. Let me enroll them, right? That's,
Hmm.
in a perfect scenario, that's just generally what that is, right? And then you'll have some curveballs with like medication and doctor visits, but again, that's pretty much all we do. And then you get a residual income on top of whatever your, like Christian was saying, you're plateauing. And I've felt the same way too doing ACA sales. Like, even though it is residual, it's not as residually as residually it doesn't have that much of a residual factor than Medicare does. So I felt like the ACA was, at first just sort of laying down sort of like a foundation for me to have some kind of income, and then Medicare to solidify my, my retirement, my legacy, right?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
that's sort of the opportunity that that is presented with Medicare. And especially if you are a PNC agent, if you're a life insurance agent, hey, if you already have that license, then what are you now? You're a full service agency. And if you're a full service agency, you're a one-stop shop. I mean, how great is that, right? You're
Yep.
you're, you're covering
Yep.
all grounds at that point.
100%. 100%. I think it's just such a natural, simpler transition when you have established book of business in another line to kind of move over, maybe add it to what you're doing. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think there's so much potential for somebody, even if they came in and they did that as a side focus for them, and it's a nice residual income. Let's say you come in and you did like an extra two policies a month, and that's it, two Medicare Advantage plans a month. Let's say the bare minimum, like the baseline, right? You're doing 25, let's say a year. In that scenario, you're basically adding an extra $10,000 a year in passive income to your business, right? And all you're doing in that scenario is maybe you're doing the bare minimum to allow your existing clients to know that you offer that service. And that's if you're lazy about it, right? Like that's if you're not, you're doing the bare minimum, right? And you're essentially adding an extra $1,000 a month every year you do that. Like there's so much potential, so much.
Yeah, of course. And if you start killing it, there's co-op money involved, and you get help with marketing dollars, and then of course there's room to move up, and just depending on who you are, and the scale of your agency, and so a lot of people who are in the PNC world, obviously you guys have your own setup in there, and some agencies are way bigger than the others, so we just sort of customize it for what the actual size is. And then from there, yeah, I don't know if some PNC agents will delegate one agent as their Medicare department, right? Or whatever it is, however you want to compartmentalize
Yep.
that, you can do that. But the more agents you have on this, of course, if you're the primary agent or principal agent, that's all going to you. That residual is going to you. So people who are just in a situation where you just can't, it's just so ridiculous, because I'm seeing in the California Insurance Agents Group, every other post by a PNC agent is, hey, how can I get this policy insured, or is this carrier even offering coverage for that specific situation, or I can't believe like they dropped all my clients this and that. So again, if it's just something that you were like, okay, it's time, it's time to pivot now. I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. And if you're not trying to write it out to see if anything gets better, Medicare is a hand in glove fit for you. especially if you already have your life license.
Hmm.
And from there, I mean, again, if you're a full service agency, it's only going to look better for you as well too, as a one-stop shop. So that's just sort of what I've been noticing, in the past month and a half or so, about agents just reaching out because of the situation, and because AP is coming up very, very soon here, in October. So yeah, opportunity is wide open and huge, and now is pretty much the time to start getting in, especially if you guys have never sold Medicare before. So that's definitely the opportunity here, especially in California. The reason why I'm making this video with Christian here is because of that situation. This is just so, we are ground zero when it comes to, make crazy homeowner insurance decisions by the carriers. We're always number one. We're always in the news about,
Yep.
Big Red dropped this, and you can't get that, and you got to put a down payment in for a car insurance, quote. Now it's just like so crazy. Like, just to get a quote, I got to put a down payment down. Like, it's rough out there right now. So I'm encouraging
Yep.
people, hey, if you do want a secondary line of or a secondary source of income, especially if it's residual, Medicare is definitely the way to go.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you guys have all heard the statistics, I'm sure. 10,000 people a day turning 65. I mean, it's actually more than that now. That's an old stat. It's more like 11 or 12,000 a day. Um, but yeah, I mean, we don't need to beat that drum too much about like the opportunity and how many people are going to turn 65 from now until 2030. It's a wild, crazy, stupid number. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, and California in particular has got the best Medicare Advantage commissions in the country. So what better market to kind of dive in with both feet than California?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have, you know, pretty good at least in Southern California, good Medicare Advantage plans where, this might be another topic in itself too. And I know, Christian, you're pretty passionate about this topic, but like, hey, like sometimes there's PPO options open that it's like
Yeah,
the point of
yeah.
a supplemental plan. We can get into that later, but especially in Southern California, but other people in other states will, in different parts of the state, like in the desert or wherever in the woods somewhere.
They'll lose their minds hearing you say something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like, "What did you say?"
Right, right. But for the rest of us, but Christian, anything else you wanted to add on to the opportunity of Medicare, and just sort of a just last statements on, what, like, the dream that we're living here, and
Yeah,
just some good words about, how somebody can thrive in this business.
yeah. So I can only tell you guys about my own personal experience. So I'll finish. I'll give you my final thoughts with this. I'm 31 years old. By the time I was 24, 25 years old, I was making a multiple six-figure income from the Medicare business. It compounds, right? So the longer you do it, the bigger your clientele is, it compounds. It's the definition of compounding. So by the time I was that age, my business was doing really well. I was a top producer, and point blank, when I look back on it, I was doing absolutely nothing special, right? Like I was cold calling. I didn't have a CRM. My phone thing I was using was like from Radio Shack from 1986. Like I was doing it like I was in the 90s because I didn't know any better, right? Like that's what I thought everybody did. Imagine what you can do, right, in a couple of years of really solid focus if you get into the Medicare space and the potential and everything that's being offered. Like the time is now, I think, to take advantage of it. It's really a great time to get into it. And I mean, this is a great time of year. So if you get in, you start learning, and if you're a quick learner, you can be up and ready. And and especially if you have an existing book of business, if you're a PNC guy, you have a special existing book of business, you could jump in and take advantage of AEP, which is essentially about a month away now. So yeah, I mean, it's a good time. And Andrew Lee is the guy to be connected to for that in California. He's the guy that can kind of help lead you to the promised land and kind of figuring out how to take advantage of that if you already have an existing book of business.
Yeah, here to help. And nothing fires me up more than somebody going from 0 to 100 to 300. Like it fires me up, right? It's
Yep.
just like, hey, Andrew, I came to you and with this scenario, and I'm a little bit nervous about this, but I'm putting my trust in you and I'm putting the trust in the process. All of a sudden they start succeeding, and I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is like
Yep.
the money follows. But when I first got into the industry, it was generally to just be of help and use my, expertise, or, the information that I know to to tell other people to do it, like teach them how to do it and make sure they're successful, because a lot of people have done that for me too. I mean, that's the trend. Christian, you've had people that done that for you.
Yep.
Anybody that's watching, you've had somebody do this for you for free, and you might have been on the other end and you might have done this for somebody else. So you know how it feels. And yeah, I'd be more than glad to walk you through that. And especially if you're in a pinch and whatever it is, yeah, feel free to reach out. I am here to help. So, yeah, Christian, I want to be extremely respectful of your time, because I know you got some more podcasts to do, because you were just that guy. You are Mr. Media, and I am very much glad that you decided to pop in and spend some time with us here. And yeah, guys,
Yep.
remember to subscribe and like this video. I'm telling you to smash it, right? I think you gotta smash that. Put on a notification just so that you can go ahead and get some alerts as to some of the content that's coming out, because we're gonna start, come AEP, it's very much gonna be conversational on what is happening at that point, right? So make sure you guys tune in. Also check out Christian's channel. It's gonna be Six Figure Medicare Agent. Did you switch it to 7, Christian, in the YouTube?
Well, on YouTube, we actually rebranded it to my name. So it's just my name now. So
Okay.
It's just Christian Brindle. If you
Brindle.
just look up Christian Brindle, it'll come right up.
Oh
The
yeah.
Facebook group is Seven Figure Medicare Agent, but the YouTube channel, we thought it'd be better if it was just me, just my
Gotcha.
name.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys ever want some kind of, inspirational content, or just know how Christian has, I don't even know how many videos you have up,
Too many,
and
too
thousands
many.
of people in our group, and he's basically our brothers. So yep, if you guys need anything, you guys know where to find me in the group. Christian, thanks again for being on, brother, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, guys.